This is Autoline After Hours with John McElroy and Gary Vasilash, episode 573 for September 30th of 2021. The transformation of Lincoln, where electrification meets personalization. Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey, and by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Hey, Gary.
John, how are you?
I'm doing okay now that we've got some technical issues sort of solved for the program.
Oh, they're squared away. They're fine.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
So we have a beautiful fall day outside, and, it's just perfect Michigan weather. It's pure Michigan, as, maybe Trevor Paul would say. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So we've both been traveling this week. One of the places we went to, I don't want to even mention it because we'll bring it up. And one of our viewers pointed out that we never talk about it when we can talk about it. So we'll put that aside. But you went to the Blue Oval City announcement reveal / whatever it was.
Yeah, in Memphis, Tennessee. Big news. In fact, we should ask Michael Sprague about it. He's coming on in a little bit. But history in the making. I mean, this is like 3 times bigger than the Ford Rouge manufacturing complex. They're going to assemble electric F-150s there, next generation F-150s. They're going to be building batteries on site. They're going to be bringing in a supplier park down the road. They could add even more battery plants and another assembly plant. 6 square miles. Gary, have you ever heard of any kind of manufacturing complex that big? That is gigantic.
It is gigantic, but I think the real news of this is not all of that. It's the fact that it shows the importance of vertical integration, which was the hallmark of the Rouge. Bring in the iron ore, bring in the wood, ship out the cars. Again, here's vertical integration. Ford's realizing that this is very important as they go down this road for new technology. And I think that's huge.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's back to the future or advancing into the past, maybe is the way to put it.
That's right. And let's not forget that Thomas Edison and Henry Ford, back in the teens of the last century, were working on an electric vehicle. Apparently what happened was that Edison came up with a battery technology that didn't work the way that Henry Ford wanted the battery technology to work, meaning it didn't work under all conditions. And, if there's any vehicle that is a hallmark of being a Swiss Army knife, being able to do anything, it was the Model T, right? I mean, people use that to plow fields and cut wood and go to the general store and everything else in between. So that thing went away. But again, we have electric vehicle, vertical integration, Rouge plant, boom.
Yeah. Like I said, it was historic, and that's why I wanted to be there.
So this day in 1966, a vehicle was introduced, and it was described as, and I quote, America's first luxury / sports car at a popular price. What was that car? And it has to do with what we've just been talking about in general. But it was not a Ford. Okay,
you put it that way. So I'm going to guess it was the Mercury Cougar.
And you are correct.
Oh, my gosh. Thank goodness. Finally, I got one. In fact, one of our viewers wrote, and I don't think you've seen this one. He said, John, Gary's always asking you the questions and stumping him. You got to come up with one and ask him and stump him. But I didn't prepare for that today.
You see, but okay. Did anybody ever ask Alex Trebek a Jeopardy question? I don't think so. So let's just... All right, so let's bring in what I told him before the show. I will say this during the show. He is one of my favorite guests. We've had him on the show before, and I always like talking to him. It's just it's a great opportunity. Shall I introduce him? You want to introduce him?
Go ahead.
All right, so we have Michael Sprague, who is the North American Director of Lincoln. So Michael, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It is an honor to be invited back. I really appreciate it. And if I could just touch on what John was just talking about, I used to live in Memphis. And I got to tell you, when I saw that announcement, I was so excited for the people that live in that area, because it is transformational for what that's going to do to that city. So that was really cool and very personal to me.
Yeah,
and oh, by the way, I was also the Mercury Cougar brand manager.
Wow.
Many years ago.
Say what? Oh my gosh.
A lot of connection here.
This is just. See, I didn't even throw that in there. I mean, I didn't realize that.
But it was, remember though, when it was built at Flat Rock, it was the front wheel drive Cougar, not the rear wheel drive Cougar.
Yeah.
So.
That's great.
Anyway, so thank you for having me back. It's great to be
here.
Sure.
And Michael, so our viewers know, tell them exactly what you do at Lincoln.
Yeah, so I am the director of Lincoln North America, so Canada, US, and Mexico, and I have responsibility for marketing, sales, service, customer experience, basically hitting those sales objectives every day, but coming up with great creative with our agency partners, of course, and then making sure, working with our retailers, that we provide the best customer experience for those clients who are interested in coming to the Lincoln brand.
So let me ask you an easy one as we wend our way into the Lincoln story. Okay, you said you've got to give the clients a good reason to come to Lincoln. What is the reason why someone should come to Lincoln?
Yeah, great question. I would say we are a brand in transformation. If you think, also a lot of heritage with this brand. Next year we'll celebrate our 100th anniversary of the time Ford Motor Company purchased the Lincoln brand. So a lot of heritage, but we're moving to the future with our electrification announcement, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit. But there's a tremendous amount of momentum. If you look at our sales in 2020, in spite of COVID, we were actually up year over year. In the last 3 years, we've introduced the Aviator and the Aviator PHEV, and then the Corsair, and then the new Nautilus, which just came out, the Corsair PHEV, and then we just revealed the Navigator. So a lot of excitement from a product standpoint, and the product is absolutely beautiful. It really builds upon our quiet flight DNA of beauty, gliding, human, and sanctuary, which we can go into a little bit of detail when we talk about Navigator. But there's just so much going on. From a CX standpoint, we were ranked #1 in JD Power's sales satisfaction, and Forrester CX Index also rated us #1. So people are recognizing the products, the marketing, and the experience that they're having at our retailers. So a lot of excitement.
Michael, I didn't realize your sales were up last year. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. In spite, remember in March and April where things just plummeted, but we clawed it back and, had the production then, and it was good. And then of course the chip issue hit. So
yeah, that's right. Hey, Cadillac's announced it's going to be all electric by 2030. What are your thoughts about that? How are you going to compete with them?
Who?
Cadillac started by the same guy who started Lincoln 114 years ago, by the way.
No, I know, and I'm sure I'll get some
flack for that.
Yes, exactly. But so, in June, we made a similar announcement where Lincoln will electrify our portfolio by 2030. And as we announced, next year, we'll reveal our first battery electric vehicle, and then we'll build upon that over the next couple of years.
Okay, but electrify, that includes hybrids and plug-in hybrids. Cadillac says all battery electric. How battery electric will you be by 2030?
Yep, so it will be a fully electrified portfolio. So there may still be some plug-ins, but the transition will eventually happen.
Are you seeing this as a demand that the market is putting on you guys, or is this anticipating regulatory issues here and other parts of the world? I mean, because Lincoln is sold in other places besides the United States and Canada and Mexico.
Right. Yeah, exactly. In fact, China is a big market for us, but it's actually, Gary, it's a little bit of both. I think initially, yes, the regulatory is pushing us there because of the issues that we have from a greenhouse gases standpoint, but we're starting to see that the pull from our clients saying, there's so much that you can do with an electrified vehicle from a design standpoint, from an interior standpoint, from an experiences and services that we can offer. So we're really excited by this transformation that we're going through. If you look back at the last 100 years, I mean, this is an incredible time to be in the automotive space.
Michael, you're facing so many competitors. I mean, even brands that were below Lincoln in the past, like Jeep, with Grand Wagoneers that are over $100,000. Hummer is what, 114,000 or something like that for the EV. You got Lucid coming in, 170,000. I mean, the premium, the luxury field is exploding. Where do you keep Lincoln positioned, and how far up can you take it?
Yeah, great question. And we've got our eyes on all of those brands, and there'll probably be some others as well as as the industry evolves. But if we look at our current product and the focus from a design standpoint and from an interior standpoint, creating those sanctuary-like interiors, so that's where we can lead. And then if you think about the experience again, that's where we think we can be where it can be our differentiator. If you look at those three things and you package them all together, beautiful design, phenomenal interiors, and a great experience, that will separate us from everybody else. And we know we've got some work to do, particularly from an electrification standpoint. We've got to make sure that we offer, the right home charging system, make sure that we've got the charging network in place for those that are traveling. Mobile charging is still kind of in its infancy, so we've got to explore that and figure out how we can be ready for that. So we've got our work cut out for us, but we believe that we're well positioned, particularly amongst some of those newer brands who they've got to build the brand. And, we've talked about the Lincoln brand of 2012. We probably weren't in the best position, but we continue to improve. It takes a long time to build a brand. It's not going to happen overnight. And luckily, we've got some heritage behind us.
Michael, let's go a little deeper on the experiential part of this. Now, is the experience when one is in the vehicle in terms of the user interface or even with the Lincoln? I mean, you're approaching it and you have the puddle lights and you open the door and you hear the Detroit Symphony and then you get in and there are these things. Or is it the experience that one has when going to purchase a Lincoln?
Yeah, it's all of it. From the minute that somebody first starts to look at the Lincoln brand, it's making sure that the assets that are out on the internet speak to them and talk to what the brand stands for. So when they go online, they can easily find the information that they're looking for. And if they decide they want to go through the purchase process, make that as simple as possible. And then if they get to the dealership or when they get to the dealership, making sure that that experience is warm, human, and personally crafted the minute somebody walks in the door. And then when you bring them into the product make sure that to all of the points that you just ticked off, make sure it's everything, from the design standpoint, the interior, the DSO chimes, which are phenomenal, the seats, the massage seats, making sure all those work. But then when they leave the dealership, making sure that ownership experience is differentiated and set apart from everybody else. And, we've talked about Lincoln's pickup and delivery, which when COVID hit, we were so well positioned because we already offered that. So people, while they slowed down their driving or stopped driving, they could still get their vehicle serviced because we came to them, brought them a sanitized vehicle, took their vehicle back, got it serviced, brought it back, sanitized everything. So we were well positioned for COVID because we recognized some of the pain points that our clients had and worked to fix those.
Michael, Lincoln's now all SUV brand.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep looking at these pickups that are going more and more upscale. As you know, Lincoln made a run at the pickup segment. I can't remember, a couple of decades ago.
A couple times.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly an appropriately Lincoln pickup truck. But with, the explosion of these trucks moving farther and farther upscale, do you think Lincoln would ever reconsider being only SUVs?
Gosh, we are constantly looking at the landscape and looking to where there are opportunities to grow the brands. But I would say when we look at the current landscape, where we are positioned with our four SUVs, we are in the right space. I mean, Ford does a phenomenal job with their pickups, and we'll leave that to them, and we'll focus on how we can continue to grow what we already have.
Michael, you mentioned that when you become a fully electrified brand, when there are more battery electric vehicles in the Lincoln portfolio, that part of this is to look at more broadly, just not the vehicle, but the context in which the vehicle exists, including the charging infrastructure. Are you going to be partnering with a company like, let's say, Electrify America, or will Lincoln go its own way?
No, in fact, in our June announcement, when we talked about electrification, we said that we were going to partner with Electrify America. It's Ford Motor Company has that relationship, and it just makes sense for us to build off of that, but make sure that our clients, when they're utilizing that service, make sure that it's Lincolnized in some form or fashion. And that's those are the things that we're working on.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead, John.
No, go ahead, Gary.
Well, I'm very fascinated. Now, one of the things that you guys also announced is something called Vitrine dealerships. Can you talk about what that means and what somebody would experience in one?
Yeah, sure. So vitrine is actually a French word for glass house. And it's how we want to showcase our brand going forward, because we've got these beautiful products and we want to showcase them in this jewelry box per se. So we have about 28 dealers that have modernized their facilities. They've either modernized them or they've built brand new facilities for us, all with these vitrine elements. So wide open spaces. Something that's really unique in all of it, we put a coffee bar in our vitrine design, and our dealers are telling us that is the focal point. That is where the deals are getting done. People love just the casualness of being able to come in and have a cup of coffee or a soda and work out the deal after they've gone through the product and identified which one they want. And that's been really enlightening for us, because it breaks down those barriers of I'm here and you're across the table from me, and it's been a really interesting learning. But so 28 of our dealers have already signed up. We've got another 50. We've got one dealer in the Phoenix area in Scottsdale. He's created a boutique vitrine. So it's a bit of a satellite from where he's at in another part of Phoenix. It's in one of these lifestyle entertainment complexes where there's condominiums on the top and restaurants and other activities. And it's amazing the foot traffic that he's getting of people just walking in and walking out with a new Lincoln. It's fantastic. But that just shows how consumers are shifting the way they purchase vehicles from maybe the way it was over the last 40 or 50 years.
Michael, vitrine, coffee bars in the dealership. Sounds to me like these are lessons that you've picked up from China, where the Lincoln brand has had an opportunity to go clean sheet. Chinese consumers may have heard of the Lincoln brand, but it's been brand new to them. Seems to be paying off too. Are you paying attention to what's going on in China and trying to bring some lessons learned to North America?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, John, it goes both ways, because they're looking at some of the things that we're doing and incorporating them into their operations over there. But yeah, so we're working quite closely with them. From a technology standpoint, they're much faster in terms of technologies. So we're spending a lot of time understanding from them how consumers are interacting with technology and figuring out other ways that we can incorporate that. But yeah, also the Lincoln brand has an incredible amount of cachet because of the heritage, the 100 years. And so we look at that and understand how consumers are looking at that and how we should approach that with our 100th anniversary next year. Lincoln is an uber luxury brand, and so they do things from a guest services standpoint that we've incorporated into some of the things that we're doing here.
So let me ask you something. Speaking of heritage, I mean, I think there would be a number of people when they think Lincoln, they think older people. And what are you seeing in terms of demographics? I mean, are you shifting? Are you bringing in new buyers? I mean, I see that a third of the sales of Lincolns begin online. So it seems to me that there's got to be a younger, more tech savvy consumer that Lincoln is appealing to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Navigator is being our flagship, is actually the vehicle that has the youngest demographic at 52. And people may think, well, that's still a bit older. But when you look at the industry in kind of the low 60s, that's pretty good. Because remember, it's, there's still a lot of older buyers out there that skew it. We do see, obviously the millennials are coming in now in droves and purchasing. When you look at our new portfolio, again, the Aviator, Corsair, Nautilus, and Navigator, it is definitely bringing in a new client, because a lot of the people that are now attracted to the brand don't have that recognition or don't remember what the brand stood for maybe 15, 20 years ago, when it was a little bit more nondescript.
It surprises me that you say the Navigator is bringing people in. I would have thought it would be the Aviator bringing people in. So how do you suss that out?
Yeah, so if you think of the Navigator client, it is couples with children who need the capability, the storage, particularly a lot of families this day and age, now that COVID is, I don't want to say, calm down a bit, but we're getting back into going to the soccer tournaments and, the basketball tournaments and hockey tournaments and all those sorts of things. So they need the space. You're taking 2 kids to a hockey tournament, you got the bags and the suitcases and all that sort of stuff. So they need that as their families, grow up and move out, then they start to downsize to like an Aviator or, even a Corsair. We had, that's now bringing in a younger customer. The MKC attracted a much older customer. The Corsair, from a design standpoint and how we went to market with it, is definitely attracting a younger buyer. So it's for us, it's just getting the awareness out there of this brand that, again, has the heritage, but is transitioning to the future.
Michael, Lincoln, I think, is still a brand that does better in the Midwest, maybe not so well on the coasts. Are you looking for your electric vehicles to change that, to bring in customers who otherwise would not consider going with Lincoln?
Yeah, John, actually, it's a great question. Yes, we are very strong in the Midwest because of that, being based in Michigan and that kind of being our where we started. But actually, Florida and Texas are our 2 largest markets. In fact, Texas is the largest. But if you think about it, people in Texas like big SUVs, and we've got a portfolio of SUVs. In terms of when we shift to electrification, sure, we see huge opportunity in California. California, obviously, a very expensive market to get into and to operate in. But we think with our electrification strategy, it will open up huge opportunities, and we'll see a lot of growth coming out of this.
Michael, let me ask you. So you said earlier about how 2020 was a good year. So here's a year you're building momentum and things are going forward. And now we have a chip crisis. And dealer lots are increasingly empty. I mean, how are you guys dealing with this, and how do you see things going forward?
Yeah, great question, Gary. One we get from our dealers every day, but I want to just do a little bit of a shout out to our manufacturing and our purchasing teams who have been working 24 hours a day since this first came to light. And that's really what it is. It's them getting the chips and being able to allocate the production to the various vehicle lines. And Lincoln is, like all of Ford Motor Company, we suffered. The good news is we're starting to see the flow of product come back. I'd say June and July, we hit bottom, but now our dealers are seeing a steady flow. Our September sales will be up significantly over August, which is great. And August was up over July. So we're starting to see that upward tick. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. But as you guys know, because you're very close to this, it can change on a dime. We could have another fire, or we could have another country say, we've got COVID spikes. But we're doing what I can. Our retailers are doing a phenomenal job of transforming how they work with their clients, taking retail orders, which, as you know, that wasn't the case. But so they're figuring this out with us, and it's been great. It's been a great learning experience. Again, transformative. It's unbelievable.
Michael, do you think you can use this crisis to your advantage in the sense that, the business model up to now has been put as many products as possible on the dealer lots and sit and wait for customers to come in? Now we're seeing customers ordering their cars. I think Jaguar's talking about 1 out of 3 cars it was selling before the chip shortage really got going were people willing to order. I mean, presumably your dealers could manage inventory a lot better. There's some pricing aspects to this. Do you see an opportunity to do more build to order?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that now. I mean, we had clients that came in call it April or May saying, hey, I'd like a new Navigator. And we said, that won't be available until, October. And most of them have been, okay, I get it. Because they understand what's happening, because it's not just us, it's every industry that's being affected. And so it was hard at first with our retailers of changing that mindset. But once they got into the rhythm and consumers were like accepting of it, it has changed. Our retailers are looking at exactly, do I need all of these vehicles on the lot that I'm paying floor plan on? Or do I need, all of these other ancillary services that I brought in to keep those vehicles moving around and all that sort of thing? So yeah, we're all learning in this.
Here's another question then related to that. If people are going to order their car, are they ordering a broader palette of colors? Because as you know, dealers don't want to get stuck with something that sits on the lot. You get something that's a bright green or a bright blue or whatever, and it can be an orphan child. So they go with the tried and true. They'll go black and gray/silver, and that's about it. And same with the interiors. They go with very safe, all black, maybe beige or something like that. Are you seeing your customers personalizing their cars more than what they would have bought off the lot before this?
Yeah, absolutely, John, because it does allow them to personalize it, because there isn't a whole bunch on the lot. So it's like, what do you really want? And you came in for a black and we had, 100 whites and we put you into a white one. But now your car isn't going to be available for 3 months. Why don't you, personalize it and really make it yours? And we can get you that color, because to your point, if it is the green one that then sits, that costs us money, that costs the dealer money, that hurts our residual values. So again, it's a win-win for both of us.
Michael, let me ask you this. We're coming to the bottom here. You mentioned earlier that it takes a long time for a brand to establish itself. And next year, as you mentioned, 100 years of Lincoln. And over the past few years, let me say, you've been rebuilding, reimagining what Lincoln is. How do you tell when you've arrived?
I don't know. That's a great question. For us, or at least for me, we will always be a work in progress, because consumer tastes will continue to shift, and we need to make sure that we're looking at the markers in the future to see and stay relevant to those, to what those trends that are happening out there. So I would say we're going to keep on going. It's, I guess maybe when we drive everybody else out of the market, maybe that's when we finally arrived.
Love that optimism.
Yeah, slash and burn. Well, Michael, great to have you on Autoline After Hours again. Always good to get your insights as to what's going on in Lincoln. And I got to tell you, from what I've been test driving, I really like the vehicles in your lineup these days.
Well, thank you both. I really appreciate the opportunity. And we'll have more news to share in early 2022 as we celebrate our 100th anniversary. So Look forward to sharing that.
100th anniversary is part of Ford. Remember, Henry Leland started Lincoln Motor Company, I think in 1917 or something like that.
Correct.
They're not counting those, John. So if
Yeah,
if their 100th anniversary happens to be on a Thursday, and I ask that question, I'm not counting the pre-Ford years. Just want you to know right now.
There you go. Good. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
We're going to be back in just a moment. We're going to be talking about racing autonomous race cars at Indianapolis. So don't miss that. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsors.
The world is changing at an ever-increasing pace. No matter what the mode of transportation, there is always the need for an efficient propulsion system. And that's exactly what BorgWarner has been doing since the earliest days of the automotive industry. We create innovative mobility technologies that reduce energy consumption and emissions while improving performance. Our proven track record has made us an industry leader in forward-looking propulsion solutions for combustion, hybrid, and electric vehicles.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to be talking about Indianapolis autonomous race cars. We got John Waraniak from Have Blue and Patrick Lindemann from Schaeffler. Great to have you guys on the show.
Hey, glad to be here, Johnny and Gary.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, I mean, this almost sounds crazy. I mean, autonomous vehicles still in their infancy, and you guys are crazy enough to put a bunch of them on a racetrack and see what happens.
Not any racetrack either.
Yeah.
Not just any racetrack. We're talking the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Carl Fisher, back when he built the track over 110 years ago. I mean, think about that. It's come a long way, and but it's no crazier than Henry Ford taking his horseless carriage out on the ice in Grosse Pointe and to literally prove to his investors that this was part of the future.
I mean, it's time to change now, right? I mean, we're landing rockets. Why not race autonomous? It's about time.
That's exactly right. And, I know John Waraniak always agrees with me on this one point, at least, that if you want to advance automotive technology, fastest way to get to a solution is turn the racing crowd onto it and put it on a track.
Absolutely. The two fastest ways to accelerate technology are one, war, which we don't need, and racing. Those two actually do it. So.
Well, racing, as you know, that's surrogate war.
Yeah.
All right. Wait. We're getting way ahead of everything here, and you guys are going war and okay. So explain to the viewers exactly what this is. John Waraniak, explain what this is. I mean, there's a lot of pieces to it, and I think that if we lay the groundwork, then we can move from there.
Okay.
And not go to war.
India Autonomous Challenge, IAC we'll call it, basically is an autonomous race, $1.5 million in prizes, $1 million to the winner. And it's October 23rd, coming up at the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have what have we got? 21 universities from 9 countries around the world that have formed 10 teams. Now, we're talking about universities like MIT, University of Pittsburgh, Polymov in Milan, MIT, et cetera. So quite a few in West Point and Purdue. But it's basically a competition to prove that they can go around the track in Indianapolis at racing speeds to demonstrate the technology. But I want to make a key point. It's not just about the autonomous, and it's not about taking the driver out of the loop. Driving will always have a Scott Dixon, Takuma Sato at the Indy 500. This is about solving extreme edge cases. And that's really what the autonomous driving is all about. We want to prove to customers what an autonomous vehicle can do, and more importantly, what it cannot do through racing.
Patrick, I'm very interested that Schaeffler is involved in this. As a tier 1 automotive supplier, what's the company's interest in being part of the Indy Autonomous Challenge?
Well, as you know, Schaeffler is very active in the electric drives, hybrids. I mean, we just talked about the Lincoln. We make the PHEV for the Lincoln. Just got a PACE award this morning. But we're also into driving, autonomous, into steering, wireless steering, steer-by-wire, basically. We're in the GP in Europe, where we have cars driving with our system. Basically, there's no connection between the steering wheel and the wheels anymore. I mean, if you think about a car today, and if you look at a driver, the only real connection that he still have where he can decide is the steering wheel. He cannot, clutch pedals are gone, so we don't do that anymore. We have automatic transmissions. We have drive-by-wire, so the computer decides how fast you go. We have ABS that decides how fast you can brake. The only thing is the steering wheel. It's about time that we take that out of the hands of the driver, because he's texting anyhow, right? So he's too busy to do this stuff. So we have to do something there, and there we are really, really heavily involved with the industry, and it's also time to bring this forward. And I think racing is just an absolute fantastic opportunity to display some of these opportunities. And one of the systems is in all these race cars, that the computer can now steer the cars.
Yeah, I mean, and when you think about that, Patrick, it's the car's ability to see, to think, and to take action. And again, I think we'd all agree that humans are pretty good at driving, maybe not so good at decision making, whereas computers are great at decision making and probably not so good at driving. So we're going to see that human machine interface going on for a while. But this is a case to swing the pendulum way out there, go out to the Gemba, the front lines of accelerated product development, and demonstrate what autonomy can do. But this will probably end up being a multi-year journey, just like the DARPA. I like to call the Indy Autonomous Challenge kind of the son of DARPA. It took years, 15 years, when Sebastian Thrun and then the GM boss. I know you remember that, Gary and John and Patrick.
Well, let's not forget Stanley. Stanley won. That was what Sebastian drove Stanley. And the thing that strikes me as being interesting is that the Indy Challenge is being positioned as being the successor to the 2005 DARPA Grand Challenge. And what I found to be interesting is that was in the desert. And so a diesel Touareg won that. And you guys are on a racetrack. It just seems like, can you get any further away from one to the other?
Oh, yeah. And that original desert challenge with DARPA, I think it was a 140-mile course that got set up, and there wasn't a single vehicle out of the 20 or so that entered that made it more than 8 miles.
That's right.
So it's a journey. It's a journey.
It's a start, right? It's a start.
A lot of this started back in '64 with the GM Firebird 3 at the New York World's Fair. Flash forward to 1997, John, you'll remember that, in La Jolla, California, on the La Jolla Freeway, San Diego. 8 Buicks with all their hands up in the air, driverless along the freeway there outside of San Diego for 15 miles with Buicks, no less. And that was the first demonstration. That was 1997.
Let's talk about the race cars themselves. So these are not, the full-blown Indy race cars. These are the Indy Light race cars. But and there was one at Motorbella at Automobility. I saw it there. It was pretty cool. No place for a driver. It's all filled with, the mechanisms that's going to drive the car. But John, these are still pretty capable race cars. I think they'll still be able to hit 185 miles an hour on the straights.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. 185 miles an hour. Some of them have demonstrated very high speeds, up to 100 and a bit more. But it's a Dallara chassis. Great, designer, builder of race cars. But the Dallara chassis, this is called the AV21. It was designed by the folks at Clemson University, CUI Car Graduate School. And Juncos Hollinger Racing did all the prep work to make them identical 10 cars that are racing. I jokingly call the cockpit Colta in honor of Colton Herta, because last SEMA show we had live in 2017, I had quite a few of the IndyCar drivers up there, and Colton, I think it was about 19 years old. He couldn't wait to see this happen because he's into gaming and certainly gaming engines and everything else. So he understood the value of what we're trying to do. So it was great to see him win just a week or two ago at Laguna Seca. But I mentioned the extreme edge cases before. If you're watching Colton when he was winning the Laguna Seca race 2 Sundays ago, he led from pole to the race win, but a rabbit crossed the track at Laguna. There is no way an autonomous car, extreme edge case, is going to be able to have that, literally an algorithm that says, I think there's a rabbit in front of the vehicle at 180 miles an hour. So,
that's right. Yeah, I saw that
That's a great
happen.
example.
There's one less rabbit in the world today. Hey, Patrick, what do you think Schaeffler's going to learn from this? Are you hoping to? I mean, you're going to have all these very smart university students programming these cars to be able to race. Are
Right.
you looking to learn about how they're programming? Are you going to use this as a recruiting tool?
Well, as you know, I mean, a lot of our systems are in the cars, in all the 10 cars. So the good thing is we will be in the winner car. I can already tell you that.
You also be in the last place car, so you know.
That's okay, but our press announcement will be different, right? Just kidding. I mean, we have several goals. Number one is we have to bring also the drivers out there, autonomous driving closer, right? Because it will be so important also for safety in the future. And these new technologies will be also always used in race car first, right? I mean, there you can demonstrate the car, you can show them they can drive on their own. For sure, it's still the beginning of it, but it is for us a very, very important platform to show what's possible. On the other side, it's also very good to meet some of the talents that really know how to program cars, because those we have to recruit for us. So it's a little bit selfish on that side as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, John mentioned DARPA. I mean, when you look at some of the startups like at Argo and Aurora and the like, you know, they were the students back then that were racing at DARPA.
Absolutely, yeah. You think about all those like crews with Kyle Vogt and Sebastian Thrun and Anthony Lewandowski and people like that.
Brian
that have done
Selesky,
great.
yeah.
Exactly, and you know, the reason most companies like you know, the corporations and large suppliers like Schaeffler race are basically, one, to solve problems, two, to demonstrate technologies on the world stage, and third is to inspire the next generation and bring that talent and these leaders to the industry. And that's what STEM and STEAM are all about: science, technology, engineering, art, and math. They're all there.
Exactly. I mean, I really enjoy it if you go to these, I call them now young kids. I mean, we're a little bit seasoned here, all of us. So you see them and there's sparkle in their eyes when they're working on this stuff. It's just amazing. I mean, it's like back in the days, maybe you have a small block and you've got more horsepower out of it. These days, it's writing the software to drive a car autonomous. So it's fantastic opportunity.
It is.
Patrick, let me bring this to, you know, what you guys are providing. I mean, one of the technologies you're providing is something called space drive.
Yeah.
Tell us about space drive. Now, is this something that is off in the future somewhere? Is this something that you see as being technology which is applicable to production vehicles right now or next generation? Tell us about that.
Yeah, space drive, we are currently at a generation 2. And what it is, at the beginning, the idea behind it is to enable disabled people to drive a vehicle. So if you cannot steer with a steering wheel, this system allows you to drive on the street today with a joystick, for example. Or I don't know if you saw the video from the race driver Sam Smith, where he drove his Corvette, where he just blowing in the straw and looking left and right, and he could drive a car again. That was our system as well. So this is in the market and it's street legal today already. We're going to the next generation space drive 3, and now the special built or modified production cars and the future autonomous cars, this is starting to merge now. So this technology goes now also in the regular cars, and this is what we're doing in this field.
Patrick, I'm so glad you mentioned that, you know, because so many people think autonomy is all about robo-taxis and things like that. It's really, one of the parts of it is to give people with any kind of physical handicap or disability, and they might be, that might be age too, by the way, or maybe they're extremely young, being able to provide them with mobility.
Exactly. And on the other side, as we know, there's so many accidents out there to help the drivers to make decisions quicker through a computer and maybe avoid a lot of accidents. Like GM has the motto, 0 accidents. Volvo, the same thing, no more accidents. I mean, this is the way to it, right? You need to take the steering wheel, that column out, because if you imagine you're driving a car and suddenly the car will steer on its own and you lose the control, that would be a really bad feeling. But if you're steering your car and you don't even feel that the car is doing a little bit different than what you do, it's a lot easier for the driver. And that's why we disconnect the steering wheel basically from the wheel actuator and just take that steering column out. And you can build probably to the guy in front of to Michael, he can build completely different cars now if he doesn't have that steering column there that in case there's an accident just pokes right through the driver.
Mm-hmm. So John Waraniak,
about the aging population, getting people that perhaps can't drive. Our good friend David Strickland, former NHTSA administrator, now with General Motors, which is great. He calls that the Exie factor in honor of his grandmother Exie, which the hardest thing for him to do was to take her keys away.
Yeah.
So he had to drive her to all her appointments. So now that we'll possibly have these autonomous cars for Exie, she'll be able to go on her own, and David can be working at General Motors.
So John Waraniak, tell us about the race. I mean, is this going to be a normal race where there'll be cars on a grid, green flag, they take off all at once, or will these be vehicles that are driving around by themselves and then they park and then another one goes out and then it parks and so on?
No, yeah, that's a good point, Gary. This is a full-blown race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Doug Bowles, Mark Miles from Penske. I sure hope Roger Penske is able to kick it off. But yeah, there'll be 10 cars on the grid is what we're imagining. That'll take off just like a race. The biggest safety protocol is that all the cars can be shut down at once if there is some sort of crazy safety type related incident or issue that goes on. But yeah, they'll be out there seeing, thinking,
so
and
you can stop them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like a code purple, so that'll go out. But yeah, this is a full-blown race, green flag to checkered flag, Gary.
So they're
doing it's not so much entertainment, but again, really getting out there on the true edge of technology and innovation.
I'm not sure about the entertainment. Also, some of the young kids, when they watch other people play the video games, I'm sure there will be a lot of entertainment for them. On the other side, we have also a qualifying the couple of days before. So it's just like a real race to see who's in the grid in the front, who's going to be in the back. So it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be 21st and 22nd when the qualifying is. So
of October.
Really excited about it.
It's been a 2-year journey. So this has been happening. There's been simulation races with ANSYS, and as Patrick pointed out, quite a few qualification races, physical races, as well as simulations that have taken place over the last 2 years. So originally, I think it was 41 universities that tried, but again, now we're down to 20 or so.
All right, so I got to ask, I actually read some of the regulations for this race, and a couple caught my eye. One is against the, and I quote, intentional jettison of any material from a vehicle, and another is against a smoke screen or any other obscurant intentionally discharged. Now, is this because there are a bunch of college kids and they're just like goofing on this race?
Well, as Smokey Unick said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So, I'm sure they're pushing the limits, but yeah, these kids, I call them kids because this 500 students from around the world, all these universities. We had a workshop back in February, and they've got the ADAS, Advanced Driver Assist Systems. Figure out. So when a car's in ADAS mode, they're not going to crash into each other. I can almost guarantee you that. When they're in race mode, when they switch off the ADAS mode and they're closing in on the car in front of them, and they, like J.R. Hildebrand said, when you're 20 feet from the car in turn 1, the crosswind will probably be this speed. This is when you make your move, turn it on race mode, put it back into ADAS mode after you make your pass. And JR actually walks some of the teams through how to do that in turn 1, turn 2, 3, and 4, down the straightaway, whatever's happening. So yeah, you're going to see quite a bit of that. Race
by the way, the rule says also you're not allowed to have a driver in the car. Or an animal. I don't know the animal part, but that's the rules.
Well, you got to have rules, or this is racing. To your point, John, they're going to push to the limit. So if you don't have a rule in there that says you can't throw anything out in front of your competitor or put out a smoke screen, they might try it.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm wondering is, this is not going to be a 500-mile race, right? I mean,
no, absolutely, it's 50 miles. Yeah,
so 50 miles.
Yeah, 20 laps is basically what it is.
20 laps.
Is this going to be a parade, or are there actually going to be position changes?
Well, there'll be a technology demonstration. I fully suspect position changes. What do you think, Patrick?
I think the winner gets $1 million, so I don't think it's going to be a parade. When there's $1 million on the line, would you walk behind all the other people, or would you try to get a little bit in front? So I think we're in for a treat here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're going to see, I'll call it the real factor too. When you watch qualifying at, let's say, Indy cars, one track at a, one car at a time on the track, just like back in May with qualifying at the Brickyard. It's a lot different when you got 20 or 30 other cars out there. So I think, with the Indy autonomous cars, with 9 other cars out there other than your Dallara, you're going to see some pretty good action going on. And it might start off kind of gingerly, but I think you're going to see them going for it because, as Patrick mentioned, it's $1 million race.
Yep.
So you mentioned simulation. Have there been race simulations with 10 cars? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. They've had car-to-car simulations absolutely going on. Yeah.
Very interesting. I can't wait to see this.
So are these electric cars or do they have engines?
To keep the cost low, the teams agreed that they'd start off with internal gas combustion engines.
And what's the nature of the engine?
Don't know. The power plant, not too much emphasis on that, but enough to power all these electronics and the sensor fusion. Short range radar, long range radar, LiDAR, and then all the sensors and software that come together.
Yeah, I thought they were modified Honda engines, but but in any case, with enough power to push these things down the track at 185, I don't know if they'll get there, but who knows? If they're drafting each other, they could even go faster.
Yeah, very true.
So Patrick,
they have to have an average speed of at least 100 miles per hour, an average. Otherwise, you don't have a first place. Mm-hmm. So they're going after it. And I think one lap has to be an average speed of a minimum of 120 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's not going to be a Woodward cruise here. Yeah. It's a little faster.
Patrick, does Schaeffler provide other technologies besides the space drive that will be used in these vehicles?
I mean, we provide all the mechanics behind it, so you can drive the vehicle from a computer. So there's a computer, and then the students drive the software, and then from there to basically steer it, accelerate, brake it. That is provided by us.
That's good stuff.
So it's whoever writes the best algorithm wins, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the cars are all identical.
That's great.
This really does put the engineers and the team leaders and everyone on the teams, all those students, front and center to be the actual technology heroes, not necessarily one driver, but the entire team.
Yeah.
So John, you said people are from around the world participating in this. So how do you put together the teams?
The universities, some of them have teamed up, as I mentioned, like Purdue and University of Pittsburgh. They teamed up, and West Point, and some of the teams have teamed up. I think it was MIT and Pittsburgh, rather, and quite a few of the others. The teams teamed up, one because depending on which sponsors they have and how much money, because some of these students have been at the Brickyard since Memorial Day, living there, testing, training every day. So a very commitment. And with COVID, in spite of all the challenges of COVID, they've been able to stay there because of the challenges of traveling. But they're getting the progress made very quickly. Again, kind of the benchmark, if you will, DARPA. But looking at what these students have done with the Indy Autonomous Challenge, kudos to them for really pressing forward.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's a very important technology for the future. And I think every university would like to have that prestige to win the first ever autonomous race. So the pressure is high.
Absolutely right.
Patrick, I think it's Polytechnic Milano, Polymove, I think it is I think they've got the pole position so far.
Yeah.
And then there's the University of Munich. So they're doing
still a little early to tell, but yeah.
So wait a minute. They've had these cars out on the track already?
Oh, yes, many times.
Oh, man. Now it gets even more interesting.
Yeah. And every sunny day that Doug Bowles and the team down at IMS has a chance, they get the cars out on the track so they're ready to go whenever they get that move.
Yeah, I think the training started already in June 5th. This was the first official time when they were allowed to drive the vehicles on the track.
Yeah, it was right after the 500. How cool will it be with Detroit Grand Prix moving back to the streets in 2023 to have one of the winners there and actually do some street laps in the Motor City? That would be awesome.
That would be great.
It'd be, of course, quite a different nature from the giant oval in Indianapolis, which is very deterministic in its.
Oh yeah, yeah, but that's a year and a half away.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, but I got to believe you guys are thinking along those lines, like Gary points out. Do the super speedway at Indy and maybe try a road course or a street course at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to find edge cases, a road course or a street course is going to find them for you,
right?
As well.
Maybe you could go to Laguna Seca.
But maybe one step at a time. Let's start with Indianapolis. We still have 20 cars. And then we go from there.
I think the coolest thing, if I had to sum it up, what I'm seeing out of these students and everything, is that software is the new horsepower, and particularly performance software. We're going to start seeing this in the aftermarket, particularly with EV crate engines like GM and certainly the Illuminator from Ford. You'll start seeing EV race kits put together with the software fusion that comes out of the India Autonomous Challenge. And we're going to see some great racing at King of the Hammers in Mint and Baja with some EV racers. And we'll see some autonomous technology starting to build in there to make the drivers even safer.
And the artificial intelligence, I mean, that's the big enabler behind all these technologies. And again, here we make huge progress. 10 years ago, a computer could not decide between a dog and a cat, and today they're a lot better than any human. Just to see the progress of a computer and the software behind it, and I can't even imagine where we're going to be in 5 years. Even though people say, "Oh, these robo-cat or taxis are out," 10 years. I don't think so. We're working with some companies. They will be really impressed what they're doing right now. So it's really great.
Absolutely.
So it'd be dog, cat, rabbit.
Yeah.
Rabbit,
right.
yeah.
That's exactly right. Well, hey, you guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. One quick question before we go. Will this be streamed online, or is there any way for any of us to watch this?
Good question. I would call Diane Murphy. If you go to the India Autonomous Challenge site, she's in charge of all that, and she'll be your point of contact for any follow-up questions you may have, some of the videos. But she's got all that, and they'll have all that information ready to go for you.
Good deal. I'll definitely follow up on that. Well, Patrick Lindemann from Schaeffler, John Waraniak from Have Blue, thanks so much for coming on Autoline After Hours. This is history in the making.
Truly,
it is. Thanks for having us.
Being out on the ice with Henry Ford. So thank you, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
And Gary, I'll see you again next week.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh no, I will not.
That's right.
I'm going to be maybe, but
I'll be
as
here.
of now. Okay, you'll be there. Okay. Real good, everybody. Thanks for having tuned in.
Hey guys, stay healthy, stay safe. Adios.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey, and by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday afternoons. Get your daily fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.